أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة فكشف الله تعالى به الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين من ربه. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد الرحمة المهداة وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises belonging to Allah Azza wa Jal, and may the peace and blessings be upon His beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and upon his family and companions in entirety. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal on this blessed day of Friday to be with our brothers and sisters in the East and West who are facing difficulties and trials and pain and heartache. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam healing wherever they may be, and to be with our brothers and sisters in Pakistan who are suffering from the floods caused by the monsoon. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to be with them and to reward them for patience, and to accept those who died either from gharaq, drowning, or from their houses collapsing upon them, to accept them as shuhada and martyrs. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. It's a devastating situation coming out of there, and we should all care about this, brothers and sisters, with 30 million people displaced, billions of dollars lost, and over 1,000 dead. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to better the condition of the Ummah. Allahumma ameen. Amma ba'd, brothers and sisters. In Surah Luqman, Allah Azza wa Jal gives us a profound example of a relationship between a father and a son. And that is in Sayyidina Luqman al-Hakim and his son, and in the nasa'ih, the advices that he gave, starting with, "Oh my dear son." And of course, it's known about Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam that he was a righteous and a pious and wise person. not a prophet. اختلف في نبوة سيدنا لقمان والأرجح على عدم نبوته. Most scholars say he's not a prophet. Same thing with Sayyidina al-Khadr, there was a difference of opinion, but most say he was a prophet. But about Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam, Allah describes that he was given profound wisdom. That beautiful characteristic that's a gift from Allah whenever it's mentioned in the Quran. You find in another verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. He gives wisdom to whomever He decrees. Wisdom is mentioned as a gift from Allah in the Quran. We've given Luqman hikmah, and it's one of those characteristics that when found in a person, in a relationship, you'll find that it leaves a deeply profound impact and impression on those around. And that's what you find in Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam and his son. What is hikmah? What is wisdom? They say it is اسم لإحكام وضع الشيء في موضعه. It is to know how to put everything in its proper scale, in its rightful place. What is wisdom? They say it's فعل ما ينبغي على الوجه الذي ينبغي في الوقت الذي ينبغي. Doing what ought to be done the way it should be done, when it should be done. That's what wisdom is. Words could do that to people. Words could transform situations, can change people's lives. That's why when Sayyidina Umar, during his Khilafah, it was said that there was two men who came from the east, and they spoke words of wisdom that impressed everybody. قدم رجلان من المشرق فخطبا فعجب الناس من خطبتهما فقال سيدنا عمر إن من البيان لسحرا. Sayyidina Umar said, there's some forms of expression that have the impact of magic, in that they penetrate hearts and change people. Brothers and sisters, this khutbah is not to speak about wisdom, but it's to speak about how Luqman alayhi salam's wisdom was employed in winning over the heart of his son. Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam is a prime example of how to pass on faith to another generation. There's actually one of the hadith in Muwatta Imam Malik. It's reported that روي عن مالك أنه بلغه أن لقمان الحكيم أوصى ابنه فقال يا بني جالس العلماء وزاحمهم فإن الله يحيي القلوب بنور الحكمة كما يحيي الأرض بوابل السماء. He said, just as he had wisdom, he taught his son how to search for that wisdom. He said, "O my son, sit closely to those of understanding and reasoning and knowledge, because Allah revives the heart with the nur, the light of wisdom, just as He revives a barren earth from the heavens, or the rains descending from the heavens above." Brothers and sisters, we're at a critical juncture in this khutbah. We see many young faces with us today, and this is, for many, the last khutbah before the school year starts again. People are going to go back to their, whatever it is, elementary, middle school, high school, and then soon after, the colleges also starting after that. And as we embrace a new year, we should be thinking about a lot of different things. One of those things is, what's my relationship with my profound purpose going to be? What's my relationship going to be in terms of my spirituality, my development, my growth? For some, this is probably the last Jumu'ah they'll attend, and then they'll go on sort of a hiatus from school, hiatus from the masjid. I have school, I have assignments, I have to worry about my grades and this and that. And some will retreat away from the house of Allah. Every parent should be thinking about what awaits their child in this coming year. Every young person should be thinking about the decisions they're going to make that perhaps may change their lives. Because we live in times of great challenge and uncertainty. The moment, brothers and sisters, now is one of reflection. Because many people, too many stories coming out of people being derailed in their lives because of some bad decisions they made. What awaits us in this coming year? Too many parents suffering from seeing their children hooked on drugs. You find a pleasant boy, or girl by the way, boy or girl, getting caught up in the wrong thing, and you end up seeing that they're dragged into drugs, and they may be one of the cases of overdose in our community. Too many of those. Too devastating. Or getting caught up in illicit relationships, or making certain decisions for themselves about marijuana or the focused drugs like Adderall or so on and so forth, or getting caught up with the painkiller medications, or getting caught up with some shubuhat, misconceptions that are on the minds of many people today relating to faith and religiosity, and going towards atheism, or going towards wrongful expressions of sexuality when it comes to homosexuality or illicit relationships before marriage, and so on and so forth. The list is endless of some of the struggles that are on the minds of people. Once upon a time, when we would say that there are people leaving the deen, that would be something so aberrant and strange. Where is that? That's a strange story. 1 out of 10,000. But now it's becoming so common. And sometimes that happens all without the parents completely oblivious to it, completely unaware. Too many stories coming where perhaps the son or daughter left Islam 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and their parents have no idea. Because the son or daughter keeping it a secret, living a double life. How many of our young people approach marriage having lived a double life? One life where they seem great and acceptable and outstanding sons or daughters, and then another life that tragically they make a lot of wrong decisions and that might hurt them for years to come. Brothers and sisters, how does this relate to Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam and his son and their relationship? Those beautiful words at the beginning of these lists of advice. Because you know what? Everyone could give advice, but not everyone can have their advice impact the one listening. Everyone can give advice, but how can my words really impact the heart of another person, a friend or a family member? Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam shows us in those beautiful words of endearment and love. He says, Ya bunay, la tushrik billah, inna shirka la dhulmun azim. Ya bunay. Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam always refers to his son in this word of endearment that shows that there was a level of hubb and hanan, love and compassion between him and his son. That's the key to the heart. Luqman alayhi salam was able to impact his son not because he just had a lot of life experience, because that's the frustration for a lot of parents. They say, our children don't listen anymore. Our children don't respect us. And of course it's something symptomatic that needs to be addressed. However, the key to the hearts has always been and will always be through that doorway of love and emotion. And that's why you find the Prophet ﷺ was able to impact and transform the lives of a generation, because he had that love and compassion in his heart. And he knew, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, how to teach people priorities. As we're going to this coming school year, the children are going to be at school. Some people are saying, thank God I couldn't wait for this day to come. I could not wait for this day to come. I finally am free. Many mothers, fathers, I was imprisoned at home for the past few months. I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. I always had to deal with this and I always had to deal with that. Now where are my children going? To school 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, for the next 10 months, with some vacations in between. And then when they come home, a few hours of schoolwork. They're going to be on a circuit. They're going to be spending most of their time consumed by information. And information doesn't teach values necessarily. Yeah, information to learn equations and to learn about science and to learn about history and so on and so forth. But what is going to really help me become a better human being? That should be top of the list, priority. Yeah, academics are important, absolutely. However, as I'm embracing the school year, how can I become an excellent human being? How can I become a person who has priorities in my life? When we talk about our brothers and sisters in Pakistan, and we made dua for them in the beginning, such a devastating situation, like many of the situations that keep unfolding around the world, I should care about that. My son or daughter should think like that. When a life is lived very selfishly, just about my individual pursuits, my concerns, my life is consumed by my friends, my fun, my school, and my sleep. And that's all my life's about. That's a life that is scarce of goodness. It'll hardly have a sense of goodness in it. Look at the advice of Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam to his son. He teaches him, after teaching him not to associate with Allah, inna shirka la dhulmun azim. We find that the next advice is from Allah. First from Luqman alayhi salam, then from Allah. Because Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam was one who connected his son with Allah. He raised his son to be dutiful to Allah. What's the next advice? It's وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. And we've advised, this advice is coming directly from Allah, because it supersedes Luqman alayhi salam as a person. And we've advised the person to be dutiful to his parents. His mother carried him in weakness. And you know what? If they tell you to associate with me, وَإِنْ جَاهَدَكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكْ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. And if they tell you to associate with me, don't obey. But then, وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. Be a good companion to them in life, even with their disbelief. Then we go back to Luqman alayhi salam, teaching his son to look at things from a bigger picture. يَا بُنَيْ إِنَّهَا إِن تَكُ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ فَتَكُنْ فِي صَخْرَةٍ أَوْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ أَوْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَأْتِ بِهَا اللَّهُ. Brothers, please come forward. افسحوا يفسح الله لكم. We have some waiting at the door. Any space you see in front of you, please come forward and we'll figure it out at the time of salah, inshaAllah. He tells his son, be mindful of Allah. Look at things from a bigger picture. إِنَّهَا إِن تَكُ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ. Even if it's a mustard seed, wherever it is, even if it's on the bottom of the sea, under a rock in the darkness of the ocean, يَأْتِ بِهَا اللَّهُ. Be mindful of Allah. It's one of the best gifts that a parent could pass on to their son or daughter, to be conscious of Allah Azza wa Jal. Looking at things through a bigger picture. How is this learned? Brothers and sisters, these are not words that are uttered. Yeah, you could tell your son, ittaqillah. You could tell your daughter, do what's right. But it's a whole other thing to live it and experience it with your children. Look at this beautiful example from our past. A man by the name of Sahl ibn Abdullah al-Tasturi. He speaks about his uncle. His uncle was a righteous man. Imam Ghazali mentions the story. This boy was 3 years old. He just learned how to walk and talk and function and understand. And he had his beautiful uncle who came to him one day and said, أَلَا تَذْكُرُ اللَّهَ الَّذِي خَلَقَكَ. Won't you remember Allah, the one who created you? Won't you remember Allah, the one who created you? So he said to him, كيف أذكره? How am I supposed to remember him? You see the elevated discussion, right? Elevated, high discussion that they're having. A 3-year-old and an adult. So he says to him, قل بقلبك عند تقلبك بثيابك 3 مرات من غير أن تحرك به لسانك الله معي الله ناظري الله مطلع علي. He says, say with your heart, as you are trying to go to sleep under your blanket. You don't even need to utter it with your tongue. Just remind yourself of it. Allah is with me. Allah is observing me. Allah is watching over me. So he says after that, فَلَمَّا كَانَ بَعْدَ سَنَةٍ قَالَ لِي خَالِي احْفَظْ مَا عَلَّمْتُكَ. After a year of doing this, his uncle came back and told him, remember these words for the rest of your life. دُمْ عَلَيْهِ إِلَى أَن تَدْخُلَ الْقَبْرِ فَإِنَّهُ يَنْفَعُكَ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Remember these words until you enter your grave, because it's going to benefit you in your life and in your afterlife. This is experiencing spirituality with our children, with our families. He told them these words and he said, I lived by it and I felt that it helped me throughout all of the experiences I went through in my life after that. Allahu ma'i, teaching our children, every one of us here, think about this. If I'm always aware that Allah is observing and watching over, what does that do? It causes a sense of peace inside for the mu'min and security. No matter what I'm going through, Allah is with me, whether it's a situation in terms of it being too difficult for me to pay my bills, or a health situation, or a fitna from shahawat. You're at school and you're approached, and this happens, too many stories like this. You're approached by a guy or you're approached by a girl. The situation happens that sometimes you get pulled towards something that's not right, and you have a decision to make. Will you message back? Will you start talking? Will you start expressing sexuality in a way that is destructive, that might ruin you and ruin the other person? Allahu ma'i. Even if my parents are not there to punish me, Allah is observing me. Thinking bigger picture. Living life for more than just myself. That's what Luqman alayhi salam goes on to teach his son after that. But before that, there's another example I do want to share. We all should know Umar ibn Abdul Aziz radiyallahu anhu, one of the great khulafa of our past. The origins of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, where does it come from? It comes from this young girl teaching her mom a lesson. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab during his khilafah was walking about the streets of Medina, and he heard a mom speaking with her daughter. He overheard them. The mom was telling her daughter, add water to the milk so that it may become more. And if it's more, that means we'll make more money. So then she told her mother, don't you know, Amir al-Mu'mineen has prohibited this? Sayyidina Umar yani. So then she said to her daughter, وَمَا يَدْرِي أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. How is Amir al-Mu'mineen going to know now? Where is he? It's night, we're all alone, no one else is here. So she said to her mother, إِن كَانَ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ لَا يَدْرِي فَرَبُّ أَمِيرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَدْرِي. If Amir al-Mu'mineen isn't aware, the Lord of Umar is fully aware, and this is dishonest. This is dishonest. So Sayyidina Umar, when he heard this, he immediately went to his son Asim ibn Umar ibn Khattab, and he told him, go marry this girl, because she will bring forward a very special child. And in fact, her grandson, the grandson of this girl, was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, so he's the great-grandson of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. That's what being mindful of Allah does for a person in their life. Caring for others, thinking of others. What does he go on to say? He says, يَا بُنَيَّ أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ وَأْمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. He says, oh my dear son, don't ever forget that. Oh my dear son, أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ. Take care of your relationship with Allah. And take care of your relationship with others and your duty to others. وَأْمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Help people become better in their own personal lives. And then he says, and be patient with what will afflict you. Be patient with life. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. Brothers and sisters, when we think about what's happening around the world, one way that I could teach my son or daughter to live for greater purpose is to teach them service and sacrifice. Wallahi, whenever sacrifice comes in the life of a human being, it brings along with it so much khayr and barakah and goodness. That sacrifice, what does it look like? That means spending time to care for other people. Spending time to serve those in need. Spending time to help people in difficult situations. That's the type of attitude that we should have. Some people might just turn a blind eye to what's happening in Pakistan. Oh, I don't have any relatives there. Oh, it doesn't really mean much to me. I've never been there. And other people might look at it and see pain that human beings are dealing with, our brothers and sisters are dealing with. And it might cause them to want to make dua, figure out a way to support, donate if I can. Brothers and sisters, these are the things that transform us as human beings. That's why the Prophet ﷺ's life was special. Because it wasn't the life lived selfishly. It wasn't just for personal and private pursuits. As you're going back to school, the last thing you should think about is making your whole life about information and academics and degrees. Those things are important. Yes, they are. Don't get bad grades. No, that's not what this khutbah is about. Get good grades, inshallah. Become the highest in all different fields that there are, the highest achieving students you could possibly be. That's true. But remember that living your life with purpose is what really is going to make you experience the best of life. Many people get degrees, many people get high-paying jobs, but they don't necessarily find happiness. That's not where happiness is. Happiness is within my ruh, within my qalb, having a sense of rida and contentment with life, having a sense of fulfillment within. That was a beautiful thing I saw. One of the people accepted Islam, and the Imam of the masjid asked for him to describe, how do you feel now? You've been guided to Islam and accepted it in your life. What's one word that describes how you feel right now? And he responded, I feel fulfilled. I feel fulfilled. There was a void and now there's something that makes me feel purpose. That's how our iman should be for us, brothers and sisters. We learn a lot from Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam, priorities. We learn a lot from Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam when it comes to communication and dealing with people. The end of this advice that he gives to his son is about have good character. Make sure you care about other people and you empathize with them. He said, وَلَا تُصَعِّرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. He said, don't be arrogant. Don't walk proudly. Don't think that just because you have something that it can't be taken away. That's the other thing to think about. When we see the plight of people around the world, we should remember that we're in a position of great blessing, and with blessings comes great responsibility. You know, many people around the world, we're going to start the school year, people go back to their colleges and their school, and their high schools and whatnot, and other people around the world wish that they could get that type of education. If you would imagine what many of our brothers or sisters are dealing with, some of them can't get education at all. Some of them, the system is so weak and poor that they don't have enough resources to teach full time. So you'll have kids going in the morning and then kids going in the afternoon. And then in some situations, the school system is so backward that people need to try to find tutors outside to fulfill their educational needs because the school is corrupt and backwards. Brothers and sisters, there are people there's even organizations just set up for this. There are people back home who go to school and they can't start working because they can't get their diplomas because it costs money to pull out your diploma and your degree, and they can't work. There are people who get degrees and they're stuck at home. Ya Allah. How then will the responsibility be on someone who Allah Azza wa Jal has given so much opportunity, and they throw that opportunity down the drain? They just choose to waste away their lives getting to know this girl or this guy and hanging out here and hanging out there and wasting time on TV, video game, whatnot, and just, allowing the years to pass into the 20s and into the 30s, just wasting away time because I have parents who can spend on me and I could just sit back and relax and have fun in life. That's not a way to live. That's a situation which there will be great accountability for on the Day of Judgment. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those who take advantage of their opportunities and who have a heart full of empathy and care for the struggles of others, and to make us of those who have their priorities very clear in their mind to Allah and to others, and who are able to maintain a strong relationship within their families, just like Luqman alayhi salam had with his son. Allahumma ameen ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, the challenges of today are so many, and we all are in a sense at risk, especially our children. And when we talk about these challenges, they're challenges relating to drugs, relating to haram and illicit relationships, relating to shubuhat, misconceptions about the faith that push them out of Islam, or shahawat, relationships that drag them out of faith and deen because of their heart being attached to someone or something else. There's too many stories like that, brothers and sisters, that we go through of a guy getting to know a girl, or vice versa, and because of that they leave Islam altogether. The girl says, I won't marry you until you become Christian. You think it's coming out of a storybook or it's just being made up. Wallahi, it's not being made up. Wallahi, there are people who leave their deen because they get attached to someone else and they want to live the rest of their lives with that person. Wallahi, there are people who lose their life just because of a few wrong decisions. They start hanging out with certain people, they end up going to clubs or hangouts at night, and they end up overdosing in the process. Wallahi, there are too many stories of this in our community and otherwise. This is a really critical stage in our lives. People make decisions in their teens and in their 20s that affect them the rest of their life. And I hope every single young person here takes that to heart, because the followers of our dearly beloved Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, they were youth. Recognize your value. That age demographic has so much potential. If you look at the companions, the elders among the companions in the early waves of Islam, the early stages, were like Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. He was 38. Sayyidina Umar, some of them say he was 10 years younger, he was 28, or in his early 30s when he became Muslim. These were considered the older companions. Many of the other ones were in their teens or in their 20s. The first believers. Why is the demographic of the youth so critical and important? Not because of their age, no, but because of a willingness to listen to advice. Someone might hear this and say, well, apparently you don't know the youth of today. I've tried to give advice once, twice, and thrice. It doesn't work. I don't know what you're talking about. Youth being willing to hear advice. That's what makes this age so special. Because people aren't set in their ways. But it doesn't mean that everyone in that age bracket is necessarily like that. No, not at all. The Quran tells us that the kuffar of Quraysh disbelieved because they were set in their ways. إِنَّا وَجَدْنَا آبَاءَنَا عَلَى أُمَّةٍ وَإِنَّا عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. We found our forefathers doing something and we're going to follow suit. That's the hallmark of dalal and misguidance. When someone is unwilling to accept advice, then they're setting themselves for all kinds of tragedies to occur in their lives. الذي يأبى أن يستمع للنصيحة يعطب كثيرا في الحياة. Wallahi, it's a reality. And this is what would make youth special. If they don't do this, then that's lost. A willingness to change. Just just look at myself and say, you know what, I made some wrong decisions, I'm going to retreat away from this relationship, I'm going to stop doing this marijuana, I'm going to start hanging around with these friends, I'm going to start trying to live a productive life and build a good support system around me. Willingness to change, brothers and sisters. That's another thing that could make the age bracket of youth special. It could. Am I willing to change? Am I willing to hear advice? Am I a carrier of a message? Look at the youth of the cave. What did the Quran say? نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى. We tell you about the story of the youth of the cave. There are people who believed in their Lord. They had a message. They were carriers of a message. I want every single one of us, every one of us, old or young, inshallah, even the old ones with gray hairs, they're young at heart, inshallah. But every one of us, what message do I carry in my life? Is my message my paycheck? Yeah, I bring my paycheck home every single week or every single 2 weeks. What's my message in my life? Every young person, think about this as you're going back to school. What's my message in life? Is it centered on me? Just get my grades, complete the school year, get my degree, start earning a living, and then hopefully I could get married. Of course, they'll have a lot of wishful thinking. Hopefully I could get married by the time I'm 20. And very few actually are able to do that, but they'll wish and they'll think like this. What's the message I'm carrying? What am I living for? That's something to think about, brothers and sisters. And the last thing, before we end for today, as we said earlier, great things await those who are willing to sacrifice. Remember Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, when his principles and values were put to the test, he said, رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. I'm not going to give precedence to anything that displeases Allah. You know what? I get offered a job that puts me between two situations. Either you stop praying Jumu'ah or you don't get this job. Either you stop praying Jumu'ah, you don't get this. I'm not going to sacrifice Salat al-Jumu'ah for a job. Either you accept this as being okay, and you know it's a job that's full of things that are shubuhat, whatever they may be, riba or otherwise, and you say, you know what am I going to give as a priority? من ترك شيئا لله عوضه الله ما هو خير لك منه إنك لن تدع شيئا لله إلا عوضك الله ما هو خير لك منه. Those are the words of our Prophet ﷺ. Whenever you leave something for Allah, Allah will give you something better than it. Remember that when something calls you to do something haram, no one's going to find out. It's not like your parents are going to care. You could get away with it if you wanted to. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because there's another thing that might come into play. من استعجل الشيء قبل أوانه عوقب بحرمانه. Whoever rushes something before its due time will be punished by being denied it. Too many stories of people who thought they're doing the best decision for themselves, but ended up going through years of regret because of that. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to protect us and to protect our children and our families, and to better us and to allow us to learn from the wisdom of Luqman alayhi salam, and to make us of those who have a strong sense of priorities in their lives and always prioritize Allah's ridha and seeking His pleasure in all of our decisions in our lives. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to preserve us and better our families, and to better the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to make us of those who have a strong concern for the conditions and plights and struggles of those around the world, and to be with our brothers and sisters in Pakistan and in Syria and in Palestine and in Iraq and in Egypt and in Yemen and in parts of Africa that are facing difficulty and trial, and our Uyghur brothers and sisters, and all those facing some pain and heartache in their health or wealth or families. May Allah Azza wa Jal be with them all and grant us all healing. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا وتجاوز عن سيئاتنا. اللهم اغفر لصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا وشاهدنا وغائبنا. اللهم من احييته منا فاحيه على الايمان، ومن امته منا فامته على الاسلام. اللهم اجعل خير عمرنا اخره، واجعل خير عملنا خواتمه، واجعل خير ايامنا يوم نلقاك فيه وانت راض عنا. آمين آمين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين. أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين. فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون. الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وله. As we said, we make dua for our brothers and sisters in Pakistan for the struggles they're going through now. One of the community members, one of the sisters in our masjid, she had an idea